The training when you become a full-time district judge is excellent. It's provided by the Judicial College. The training you have initially is to give you the training required for the areas that you're going to sit in, and in my case I already had a private law ticket as a deputy district judge, but I didn't have a public law, so I had to do the public law training, which was excellent. The tutors are all very experienced judges, and not only do you have the opportunity to learn that area of law, you have the opportunity to pick up advice and tips really on how to manage cases and how different areas deal with cases differently. The training then goes on and you continue to have training every year, which is excellent. The residential side of it I enjoy because it's an opportunity to meet other judges and again learn from them and pick up from their experience ways to improve how you manage cases. In terms of online training, there is online training as well, which I found helpful. There's recently been one in terms of managing stress, which is very helpful. I think overall the training offered is excellent.
One of the advantages of being based at a large trial centre is that there are a number of judges that you can speak to on a daily basis, that you have lunch with. And for example, at my court, Cardiff, there are 7 district judges, a number of circuit judges. It's fair to say that there are also much smaller courts. Equally fair to say there are fewer of those today than there were perhaps 10 years ago. And in those smaller courts, you may be the only judge, or you may be one of 2 judges. Now, there are advantages to that, and there are disadvantages. The advantages, if you're the only judge, well, of course, you will be the resident judge, and you will run that court as you think that court ought to be run. The disadvantage, I would say, is, of course, there are fewer judges to be able to speak to consult, and that's something which I very much enjoy because you need the support of fellow colleagues, particularly when making such difficult decisions.
Okay, one of the concerns that I'm aware of when people are talking about following a career path, either as a deputy or a full-time district judge, is whether it's a job in isolation. When you come out of practice, you sometimes have come out of a busy solicitor's office or chambers where there's lots of interaction with fellow barristers during the course of a working day. And the worry is, I'm going to be a judge in a room, who am I going to talk to, where am I going to get support, information from when I need it? As a deputy, every deputy has a mentor district judge, so there's a first point of contact to discuss concerns, worries, issues that maybe you're facing. But of course, in every court, there are often a number of district judges. There are some smaller courts still where that option is limited, but many courts have at least 2 or 3 district judges sitting full-time, and they are always willing to help. And again, I think as a body, we recognise that we are there to support and provide guidance for those coming into the job for the first time as deputies. Once we're full-time, of course, it does change, but again, it's a fairly collegiate body. People are able to discuss cases with their colleagues.
One of the things that made the transition from being private practice to being full-time judge and learning new jurisdictions, of course, much easier for me was the great support that I had from my colleagues. I started off in smaller courts where the judges were very kind in pointing out things that I hadn't got on top of and being really useful sounding boards when I was unsure. Now I'm in bigger courts with more judges with phenomenal expertise, and there's always someone I can go and ask if I'm unsure, and they're always supportive and willing to help. And even if it's just to talk something through, just to help me to organise my own thinking, there's always someone available, and I'm obviously always willing to do the same for my colleagues. So I found that really, really helpful. I know that people say being a judge is lonely, and the decision ultimately, obviously, is mine. But I haven't found it a lonely transition in any sense.